Whoa, look at this crowd. I gotta tell you, I'm a little nervous. I'm standing on stage with a microphone, so obviously part of me needs to be the center of attention, but I have really bad anxiety, really bad stage fright. It never goes away. You'd think I'd be used to it because, not to brag, but I am famous at work. Anybody else work famous? Yeah, if you're work famous, you know it's not the good kind of famous. My coworkers are not taking my picture to the salon so they can copy my haircut. I'm not walking a red carpet into the office. I consider myself Princess Diana famous. That's where I'm burdened by the crushing weight of a responsibility I did not fully understand when I signed on to it, and eventually my employer is going to have me killed. Allegedly. Work can be stressful for an introvert. I got caught in one of these icebreaker situations recently. As the meeting was starting, we all had to go around the room and answer the question, if you could see any musical artist, living or dead, who would it be? So my coworkers are saying things like Beyonce, the Beatles, Prince, Taylor Swift, all good answers. And then it got to me, and I said, I don't care for live music. Which really kind of grinds the game to a halt, you know? But I had to explain to them, I'm getting old. You ask me if I want to go to a concert, my response is just a series of follow-up questions. Are there chairs there? What's the parking situation? Are there snacks? Do the chairs have cup holders for my snacks? I should have just said Elvis and been done with it, but you don't get to be work famous by going with the status quo, you know? To deal with some of the work stress a few years ago, I decided that I should get a pet, something warm and cuddly to come home to. So I have a cat now. Her name is Valerie. She's very precious to me. Thank you. I adopted her when she was 3 years old. And her previous owners, I have to emphasize this, was her previous owners had her declawed. Yeah. I have to make sure people know that it was her previous owners that did this, because declawing is actually kind of an inhumane, barbaric practice. It permanently disables the cat. It's as if you had your fingers cut off at the second knuckle. No one should ever do it, and I hate the people who did it to her, just so we're clear. But it's also kind of great. I don't have the burden of this decision on my conscience, but all of my furniture is intact. That's awesome. Obviously, if I could go back in time and prevent this from happening to her, I would. Of course I would. But it's not the first thing I would do with the time machine. You get the opportunity to go back in time and there's a to-do list. You have to kill baby Hitler first. And then I want to stop 9/11. Hug my dead mom. Fuck a young Dick Van Dyke. And then 12th on the list is prevent my cat from getting declawed. It's a priority, but it doesn't quite crack the top 10, you know? Anyway, like many childless cat ladies, I am single. You can hold your applause. I wouldn't say that I have a type, except, again, a young Dick Van Dyke. Or honestly, Dick Van Dyke at any age. But my past is kind of a weird, random assortment of men. If you put them all in a room together, they could make a human Guess Who board. Do you remember the game Guess Who? There's some overlap between guys, but for the most part, each is their own individual, distinctive brand of awful. This one's a narcissist and this one's a sociopath, but they both have beards, you know, so they have that in common. Or is your guy a lawyer? There's some overlap there. Does anybody have a weird relationship with their mother? Yes, there's a few on board. There's one thing about the real Guess Who board, though, that you might remember, and my dating history does have this in common. Just the one black guy. I don't know why. That joke makes me feel white people really uncomfortable, and I never get tired of telling it. I don't like to get too much into the difference between men and women, but I have come to accept that men are never going to think about things as much as women think about them, or as much as women think that men are thinking about them. So a couple years ago, I was dating this guy, and we were texting one night, and I said something insensitive. I wasn't thinking, and I was worried that it offended him or hurt his feelings. But it was hard to gauge his reaction over text, so we just said goodnight and went to bed. But I couldn't sleep. I was up all night thinking about it. I spent the whole next day thinking about it. And the next night I asked him how he was doing, and he said, not good. He said, I didn't sleep at all last night. I was like, oh my God, me too. Like, I was up all night formulating an apology speech and consulting with the group text. The group text is like the board of directors of a relationship. They're not involved in the day-to-day, but they have to weigh in on important policy matters. And really kind of reflecting on the nature of forgiveness and delving deep into like ancient Greek philosophy about the complexities of human relationships and whether we can ever truly know one another. And if we can't know one another, can we empathize with one another? And if we can't really empathize with one another, can we ever really forgive and forget? And I knew that he was going to tell me he couldn't forgive me. But I asked him anyway. I said, I'm so sorry you couldn't sleep. Like, what kept you up all night? And he said, possums. There were possums outside the house where he was staying, and they were noisy, and he could not sleep. So needless to say, our relationship did not end there. It ended the way all of my relationships end when I found out that he was married. Yeah, I'm kidding. It ended 2 weeks after I found out that he was married because I somehow thought that him being married was my fault and I was trying to fix it. So dating is difficult. Dating is difficult for a number of reasons, but also because I was raised Catholic, and being raised Catholic gives you kind of a weird relationship to sex. There are some religions that preach like abstinence only to kids. In my experience, Catholicism is not one of them. Because in order to tell you not to have sex, they have to admit that sex exists. And I'm not going to do that. Like, I never even got a sex talk growing up. The closest thing I got was when I was 14 years old, and my mom asked me if I knew what it meant that Mary was a virgin when Jesus was born. I said yes, and we never talked about it again. But I still grew up with this idea kind of ingrained in me that virginity was like this sacred gift I would give my future husband. Fortunately, I grew up and I realized I didn't want to get married when I was 18 years old, and that there are way more important things than like whether a penis has been in your vagina. For instance, I'm going to be really vulnerable with you for a second. Something I've come to realize is more important is that I've never seen the movie Die Hard. Hear me out, this is comparable, this is more important. I did some research. I did a very scientific survey of the like 4 guys that I can stand to be in a room with, and 75% of them said they would be too freaked out to have sex with a virgin. But 100% of them wanted to show me Die Hard immediately. And that's how I've learned this is more important. So I've determined that this is the sacred gift I can give my future husband, is letting him show me Die Hard for the first time. Thank you. You don't want to let the wrong person introduce you to a piece of pop culture. I have some experience with this. I let a very mediocre man show me my first episodes of Star Trek a few years ago. To emphasize how mediocre this man was, he would go on to show up to our next date carrying a large travel mug full of vodka and Gatorade. Yeah, and like just for him too, nothing for me. And that's why I let take my Star Trek virginity. You can get that back, you know, you can't. But since I've made this decision to save Die Hard for marriage, it's gotten kind of difficult. Like, I can't date casually around the holidays anymore. The closer it gets to Christmas, the more he wants to show it to me. The movie wants to show me the movie. Or he'll be like, just the trailer, just to see if you like it. I do have a friend who we agreed that when we're both 50 years old, if neither of us has seen Die Hard, we're gonna watch it together, so I've got that going on. But if Die Hard is not my future husband's thing, there are plenty of dude movies that I haven't seen before, like I've never seen Shawshank, I've never seen The Usual Suspects. I'm rounding third base on the Fast and Furious movies, but I think I'm saving all the way for the right guy. Thank you. You guys have been great. Thank you so much.